Special live team coverage of former President Trump's surrender to the Fulton County Jail. We're going to get straight to the airport where 11 Alive's Jennifer Bellamy is standing by. Jennifer, you saw everything that was going on right there. Can you paint a picture for us of what you saw earlier today and what you're seeing right now?
Well, Faith, I will tell you, everything is back to normal here. We no longer see that police presence, those flashing lights, the motorcade on standby. All of it has gone. And that is indeed the case, along with the president, the former president. He has also departed from here. But earlier, a different scene. We saw several law enforcement agencies. We saw K-9 units checking out the vehicles in this parking lot, all working to make sure that this was a safe trip to Atlanta for the president, the former president, to turn himself in to the Fulton County Jail for booking and processing. Everything happened very quickly. We know the former president left about 5 o'clock after that, just after 5 o'clock this evening, before arriving here in Metro Atlanta at the airport here in Atlanta about 7:03, 7:04. After deplaning, we saw the former president give a thumbs up on the way to the motorcade before traveling to the Fulton County Jail, where he was processed in just about 20 minutes or so, and then headed right back here to the airport to make his way back to New Jersey. Now, we did hear from the former president following that booking process in Fulton County. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
They're trying to interfere with an election. There's never been anything like it in our country before. This is their way of campaigning. And this is one instance, but you have 3 other instances. It's election interference.
The former president saying this never should have happened, saying that he had every right to challenge the election here in Georgia, and also calling this a sad day in America. This situation just now beginning, as we still have some other co-defendants who have to turn themselves in by that noon Friday deadline tomorrow set by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. We'll, of course, continue to follow this and bring you all the latest information as soon as those individuals turn themselves in as well.
All right,
Jeff?
Jennifer, thank you so much. And I do believe there are 7 people left that still have to turn themselves in by noon tomorrow. Well, the other hotspots concerning Trump's surrender was over at the Fulton County Jail on Rice Street.
And there has been a lot of protests from people on both sides. 11 Alive's Ron Jones at the jail for the very latest update on what has transpired on this remarkable day.
Well, I tell you what, guys, I've been to a lot of protests, even like Occupy back in the day, where it was very violent. You didn't know exactly what was going to happen, very dicey. This wasn't like that. Even though we were meshed together with the protesters, which was unusual, I never experienced that before. We have the media and the protesters sharing the same space, a lot of contention between protesters, those who have opposing views concerning the former President Donald Trump. However, it was all contained on this side of the barrier. On the opposite side, you had an army of sheriff's deputies to make sure that they can maintain control, and if they saw anything out of the ordinary, they could quickly move in, which we did see a skirmish up the road on Rice Street. But Rice Street is open in both directions, very quiet, not a problem at all. But security was always a concern, and I'm sure it was a concern on the other side of the jail. And that's where we find my colleague over there, Joe Ripley, with more on what he actually saw. And Joe, so you actually saw the motorcade as it arrived, and President Trump had made his way into the Sally Port to be booked.
That's right, Ron. We are here on the Jefferson Street side of the Fulton County Jail, where, as you mentioned, security was at a high priority because the presidential motorcade made its way down Jefferson and turned right behind me into this entrance, this particular entrance of the Fulton County Jail, the non-public side of the jail. So he was flanked, former President Trump was, by several law enforcement. Obviously, you've got the Secret Service. They had foot patrols out here. We also saw a helicopter and a drone scanning the skies, and on the ground as well. We saw a number of local and state law enforcement as well, talking about APD, Georgia State Patrol, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, Secret Service also shaking hands not too long ago with all of those men and women serving here on the streets, making that path clear for former President Trump's motorcade. The GBI and the FBI also worked in conjunction to secure any threats that may have unfolded here tonight. In all, about 15 minutes. That's all it took for former President Trump to be in and out of the Fulton County Jail, to have been processed, have his mugshot taken, and those fingerprints taken as well. We've heard all night long about those protests on the other side of the jail on Rice Street where Ron was. Well, we could see similar scenes maybe at the courthouse as former President Trump's arraignment, along with those 18 other defendants, is set for the week of September 5th. For now, we are still waiting here at the Fulton County Jail. 7 more defendants in this RICO case set to turn themselves in by that deadline from DA Fonnie Willis. Tomorrow at noon is when we expect them. As a result, security outside of the Fulton County Jail, we are told, will be heightened throughout the end of the week. Back to you, Ron.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. And that is really important to point out here, Joe, as well, because the sheriff did put out a statement earlier this evening saying that he is still going to provide security for if any more protesters show up here. Now, we do have boots on the ground right here at 11 Alive, as you just saw. But we're not just talking about protesters, we're not just talking about security, but we're also speaking with some of the residents in the area as well. My colleague Cody Alcorn has been out and about as well, speaking with some of those folks who were impacted by today's protests.
Yeah, Ron, a lot of people live around the Rice Street Jail here, so their afternoon pretty impacted. A lot of them could not get down their own roads. Some of them upset about that. Then by the time that the former president was going to make his way here to Rice Street, they started lining up. But a lot of supporters, just a lot of people upset because he did not come in this entrance, which every other co-defendant has done so far. They brought him in the back way at the intake on Jefferson Street where Joe was. That's why a lot of folks got to see him on that side. But this place was lined up with folks who were pretty upset. They did not get to see the person they were supporting, and they've been out here all day long in 93, 94, 95 degree heat. Now, as far as what's happening here, pretty much only people that are left are journalists here. Some network shows ongoing right now. That's what you see. As far as the backdrop here, people are still waiting for those 7 co-defendants to turn themselves in, which will happen right in front of these tents, unlike the former president. But other than that, as Ron mentioned, it's been pretty tame out here. I think the only time you really saw any back and forth confrontation was a lot of these crews with the news organizations who were upset because the protesters were allowed to be so close to them. You don't typically see protesters getting to mingle around where the crews are. They kind of keep them separated. But in this case, all the sheriff did was when everybody on this side of the street needed to threaten to arrest you if you crossed the line. So all in all, it really was not that chaotic out here. Even people mentioning tonight they were surprised at the low number of people who showed up here, even though they put this out on social media, show up here and support the former president. So right now, though, things are back to normal as much as they can be. It's still being guarded here, the entrance to the jail, as we do wait for those other 7 co-defendants. And majorly, people you see now are just the ones wanting to come out and see what's happening out here. So things pretty quiet right now, though.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, Cody. And this is just my assumption, guys, Faith and Jeff, and that is this. The reason why they probably forced everyone here on Rice Street, that's the protesters and the media. I mean, it could have been a diversion just to make sure you keep everyone over here while they focus on getting the president and his guys and the gals to get over to that side of the jail. So you keep everyone over here. Tactically, that could have been part of the process. Who knows? But anyway, we're going to continue to maintain out here, as you pointed out, Jeff, that we will be here as long as we need to be, and speaking with residents as well. Back to you guys.
You know, Ron, you're doing such a great